You are ready, Chair.
Thank you very much. Welcome to we've returned to in-person meetings, and we are here today on the March 15th, 2022 Administrator Issues and Updates. Gary, what is the first item?
Thank you, Chair Smith. First, Commissioners Fisher and Schrader are attending the Association of Oregon Counties Board Retreat today, so they are not present, but the other commissioners are present for a quorum. Chair, you will first meet as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County, if you would please announce that.
The Board of County Commissioners will recess, and we will reconvene as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County. Thank you.
Thank you. Housing Commissioner Ann Leenstra is on Zoom, so she is present, along with the other county commissioners. This is a request for consent agenda from the Housing Authority, approval of a board order to write off uncollectible accounts for the third quarter of fiscal year 2022. Collection losses total $3,896.56. No county general funds are involved. Rod Cook is the Director of Health, Housing, and Human Services. Tony Carter is Interim Director of the Housing Authority of Clackamas County. Go ahead, please.
Yes, so Commissioners, I'll let Tony speak to you.
Sure. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. The Housing Authority is requesting the Board approve moving the third quarter write-offs to consent agenda for the March 17th HACC Board meeting. These write-offs are uncollected rents and maintenance repairs charged to tenants. The Housing Authority does try to collect on these for 90 days, and when we are unable to collect them, we write them off after 90 days. The debts continue to be tracked and reported to the federal government database, and tenants are not allowed to get federal assistance at any housing authority in the nation until those debts are paid back to a housing authority.
Wow. There is consequences.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions or objections from commissioners? Commissioner Shull.
Yes.
That 3,900 for the third quarter, is that the total amount you want to write off?
That's the total.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Hearing no further objections, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that is it. Thank you, Chair. Would you now convene as the Water Environment Services Board?
Yes, I will now recess as a Housing Authority of Clackamas County and reconvene as Water Environment Services. Gary, next item, please.
Next is a request for consent agenda for Water Environment Services, approval of an intergovernmental agreement between Water Environment Services and partner cities for regional inflow and infiltration reduction. The agreement creates a cost-sharing mechanism to reflect the shared benefit of inflow and infiltration reduction and the impact on governmental budgets, whereby Water Environment Services will make 33% cost contributions to support qualifying projects and partner jurisdictions. Water Environment Services contribution will be funded by Water Environment Services capital funds with a likely maximum expenditure of approximately $3.5 million per year. No county general funds are involved. Greg Geist is the Director of Water Environment Services. Go ahead, Greg.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. I'm really excited about this. This has been a long time in the making. Just briefly, there's over 1,000 miles of pipe underground that lead to our treatment facilities.
Wow.
We own and operate about 350 miles of that pipe. The rest is owned and operated by the cities that we serve. When the districts were formed in the 70s and before, or 70s and 80s, there was never an agreement between the districts and the cities about how those pipes are managed and how much flow can come to our facility. We're what we call a wholesale treatment provider. We treat what comes to our facility. Sure. That said, we have a wet weather capacity issue, and we know that we need to build additional capacity in the next few years to deal with those high flows that come during the wintertime due to those leaky pipes, what we call I&I, or inflow and infiltration. So we did a study a couple years ago to determine the nature of the problem and what we would need to do to build, or what we would need to build in order to address this long term. And what we found is that it makes a lot more sense to go after the I&I in the city's system and in our own system. We have our own leaky pipes, than to build treatment capacity for all of that inflow and infiltration. It's essentially rainwater and groundwater that inadvertently gets into sewer pipes, and we have to treat it. And that takes people and electricity and chemicals. And what we found is that over the next 20 years, if we address the I&I issue, if we get this 65% reduction, which is what our target is, A, we're going to have to build a lot less treatment capacity for those wet weather flows, and we would save collectively, that's across the districts, over $100 million. So what we put together is an intergovernmental agreement with the cities and said, hey, if you guys help us address this within your own system, we will pitch in 33% of the cost of those projects. And there will be a technical advisory team that's made up of our engineering staff and the engineering staff from the cities that will evaluate those projects, say, yes, this is effective, and there's reporting requirements. It's a good project. It's going to get us towards our goal. And then we would fold that into our budgeting process, go to advisory committee, come to the board for our budget approval to fund those projects on an annual basis. This is a carrot approach to the problem. There are sticks that are used across the country where we have this type of situation, but we really think that working collaboratively and in partnership with the cities is the right way to go. And we're setting this up as a 5-year pilot project so we can reevaluate its effectiveness in 5 years.
And you say this is being paid for by the capital funds. Does that have anything to do with the bond sale that you had last year?
Yes, that's part of our
Yeah, and so you
construction.
had a spectacular interest rate on your bond sale, and you're using those funds. Very good. Any objections or questions for the presenter, Mark?
One question. Are the cities cooperating on this
Yes,
plan?
so this is a voluntary agreement, and we've shopped it around to the cities, and we have 4 out of 6 that have already signed on. And Oregon City is considering it on their agenda for Wednesday.
Okay, good, good. Any other further questions or objections? Seeing none, go forth and be prosperous.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Commissioners, I failed to mention this item and the prior hack item will both be on this Thursday's business meeting consent agenda. Thank you. Chair, would you now please reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners?
I will now recess as the Board of Water Environment Services and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. Gary, what's our next item?
Thank you, Chair Smith. Next are consent agenda requests for the regular county agenda. We'll start with Health, Housing, Human Services. And I'll read them off, and we'll have Rod Cook, the director, give more information. Number 1, approval of an amendment to a non-federal subrecipient grant agreement with Clackamas Women's Services for emergency shelter services. The amendment adds $79,350 for a new revised total value of $309,039. Funding through the State of Oregon Department of Housing and Community Services. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Rod.
Yes, approval, approval of this subrecipient would continue to provide emergency shelter bed night services to serve unhoused individuals and families in Clackamas County who are survivors of domestic violence, and connect these individuals and families with permanent housing and other positive exit destinations.
Any questions or objections?
I do. So, Rod, as I look down the agenda here, the rest of them I have, the next one is also emergency, and I think the category of emergency. So is the emergency uniquely different between agenda item or approval of the next one? You mentioned DV, totally understand, good organization, good nonprofit, and certainly needed. I don't have any objection to that. I was just curious if the definition of emergency was the emergency in which the victim itself needs that, which is every day, right? It's 24/7. It's not a weather emergency. It's not a COVID emergency. It's just basically the general emergency of that particular individual needing the service.
Yes, that's a good way to look at it. Yes, CWS, of course, is going to be domestic violence specific, where Northwest Housing Alternatives is going to be other types of emergency, like a need for housing right now type of situation.
It's the emergency of that particular individual
Yes.
on both of these?
Yes.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Seeing no further objections on this item.
Item 2, approval of an amendment to a non-federal subrecipient grant agreement with Northwest Housing Alternatives for emergency shelter services. The amendment adds $125,358 for a new revised total value of $469,669. Funding through the State of Oregon Department of Housing and Community Services. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, and we just kind of had a conversation about this one. Northwest Housing Services, same information around emergency services this would provide.
Any objections or questions for the presenter? Seeing none.
Item 3, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Sandy to provide $28,800 in grant funding for a project to add Americans with Disabilities Act ADA accessible doors to the Sandy City Hall building. Funded through Community Development Block Grant. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, in 2019, the City of Sandy applied for the Community Development Grant. You often hear about it called CDBG, funding to improve their public building for the citizens and with and without disabilities to better access the City Hall. I can give you a list of the type of things they're going to fund if you want to hear those, but that's what this funding would be for.
So it's more than the doors?
Yes, it's they have ADA control arms and electronic push buttons installed throughout the building.
Any further questions? Thank you, Rod.
Item 4, approval to apply for Homeless Veterans Reintegration Program grant to expand and enhance Clackamas County Veterans Workforce Program. Amount requested is $851,055, funded through the U.S. Department of Labor. County general funds include $628,626, which has already been budgeted to Health, Housing, Human Services, Children, Family, and Community Connections Division for the Veterans Workforce Program.
Yes, and this is written a little interesting, so I'll say it this way. You already fund the VETS program with the $628,000, and so this grant that we're applying for will be an additional $851,000 to that program. So I just want to make that clear. So this would, basically we're leveraging the work you have already done and prioritized with some additional funds that may be available through this grant.
Great. Thanks for paying attention to that. Seeing no objections?
Item 5, approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental grant agreement with the State of Oregon, acting by and through the Oregon Health Authority for crisis counseling program services. This amendment reinstates and extends the duration of the agreement through May 31st, 2022. Revenue value of $762,335.69 is unchanged by this amendment, funded through Federal Emergency Management Administration funds provided through the State of Oregon. No county general funds are involved.
Yeah, this one and the next one are what they call a no-cost extension grant. So basically, it allows us to continue to use the original dollars that haven't been spent as of today. So it just is basically extending our opportunity to spend those funds.
Great. Seeing any objections? Seeing none?
Item 6, approval of an amendment to the 2022 revenue agreement with the State of Oregon, acting by and through its Oregon Health Authority for the operation and financing of community mental health, addiction treatment, recovery and prevention services, and problem gambling programs. This amendment updates the special conditions and service descriptions. Total agreement value remains $8,383,001.70. Funded through the State of Oregon, no county general funds are involved.
Yes, and what the administrator said, it's basically updating the conditions, but no real changes in the whole document.
Any objections? Seeing none?
Great, thank you, Rod, very much.
Thank you.
Rod.
Next, Business and Community Services. Item, approval of a contract with Ling-So Systems for library automated material handling equipment and maintenance services. Total contract value is $226,630, funded through Business and Community Services, LINCC Library Services, Oregon City and Lake Oswego. The cities will contribute $138,092, and the remaining $88,538 will be paid for county general funds already budgeted in the Business and Community Services Department over the course of 4 years. Sarah Eckman is the Interim Director of Business and Community Services. Go ahead, Sarah.
Good morning. Just a tidbit more. This is for automated materials handling machines. And extending this contract will allow us to fully utilize our existing machines, avoid unnecessary downtime, receive upgrades, and provide routine preventative maintenance and extend their useful life. And so that was our goal in extending the contract.
And this is for 2 cities.
2 cities and library support services, which is provided through Clackamas County.
Good, okay, so 3, basically. Yes. Any questions or objections? Seeing none. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah. Next, County Council. Item 1, approval of a board order related to a previously approved zone change application regarding a historic landmark zoning overlay on the Kinsman house. Nate Boderman is Assistant County Counsel. Go ahead.
All right. Hey, thank you. Good morning. The item is to adopt an order related to the application by the Kinsman Foundation for the application of the historic landmark overlay zoning district on property located at 014 Southeast Oatfield Road. So the Historic Review Board conducted a public meeting on this and recommended approval of the proposal to apply that overlay zone. Then this commission had a public hearing on February 9th, 2022, and at that time voted 4-0 in favor of approving the proposal as recommended by the Historic Review Board and staff. So board then directed staff to prepare the findings in order, and so that's what we're proposing to do on the consent agenda this week.
I drove by the property this morning, or yesterday, gee, I can't remember, my days run together, and there was a sign out there on the front of the property, and it did not pass the 55-mile-an-hour test in the size of the font, so I wasn't sure what it said. And but this board asked that they advertise for 90 days or post about the property. Maybe somebody will be a taker on the wood or the structures.
Yeah, so we actually have two of the historic review items. I think you're referring to the one on Beaver Creek,
yes.
Correct? Yeah. So this is the one on Oatfield Road. This was
that's
the
right. I got
the
those mixed
residents.
up.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for setting me straight, Nate.
No, that's all right.
Okay.
We can talk about that one here in a moment if you want.
I think we will. Any other questions on this one?
Other than, I believe I was the person missing that day, so I will be recusing myself again for my absence on, I can see my medical thing on that morning, so.
Well, that's a problem because there's only 3 of us here, Gary.
I understand they'll be back on Thursday.
Right, you're just giving permission to put it on this Thursday's agenda. That's where you would actually
I'm okay
vote.
with putting it on the agenda.
Okay,
I don't
thank
need
you,
to
Paul.
recuse myself from, yeah.
That's okay.
Just talking about Thursday, just wanted to let you know.
All right. No objections.
Okay, item 2, approval of a board order terminating the cable television franchise agreement for the use of the county rights-of-way with Beaver Creek Cooperative Telephone Company. This termination will reduce county revenues by $14,843.50 due to lost fees and channel payments. Oh, Jeff Munz, Assistant County Counsel, go ahead.
Yes, and you get Nate back right after this. Yes, good morning. So this is, we did one of these similar orders about a month ago or so for 5 other cable companies, and the same causes. We have a lot of the small cable providers in the county that have been receiving their content through a platform called Easy Video, and that company went bankrupt and then was bought and now has been reformed, but the price more than doubled. And so they found that they can't provide cable services to their subscribers at anything close to market rates. And so what they've chosen to do is terminate their cable franchises. They'll continue to be broadband providers in the county, but they will not be offering traditional cable services. And so they've been working with their subscribers to move them onto streaming platforms and then providing information to their customers about how to access the public and education government channels available that had been previously available through their platform, as well as to the county's government channel and so on through the internet. But what this does is terminate their actually very, very new franchise, and it would have an impact of no further revenue in the form of franchise fees or PEG fees for the last quarter of this fiscal year.
Okay. Seems like it's been a while since we reviewed this, but thank you for the reminder. Any objections to move forward? Seeing none.
Okay. Item 3, approval of a board order related to a previously approved zoning map amendment on the request to remove the historic landmark on the site known as the Christian Maralt Farm. Nate, sorry, I should have called you before. Sorry.
That's
Go ahead.
not a problem. So this is related in the sense that it is another historic landmark overlay action. This one, however, is to remove that designation. And this is on the property at 20750 South Beaver Creek Road. Again, Historic Review Board reviewed this in a public meeting and recommended approval of the proposal, again, to remove that historic landmark overlay. So the board held a public meeting on the same date, February 9th, 2022, and at that time voted 3-1 in favor of approving the request. And I'm going to go ahead and just read this motion verbatim because we had to do a little interpreting. So the motion was to approve Z0439-21-Z as recommended by staff in the County Historic Review Board with the condition that the property be listed for removal and advertised for a period of 90 days to include a sign to that effect posted on the property. And as we noted in our materials to you in the packet, given the context of the discussion leading to that particular motion, staff interpreted that condition to require really three things, which was for the applicant to propose the structures to the public for relocation or salvage by posting a sign on the property, which Chair Smith is what you referred to, and to do that for not less than 90 days. And also by advertising the structures in a local newspaper and a regional newspaper. And third, by providing direct notice to local historic preservation organizations. And so we, from the motion that was made in the context of the discussion, that's what we ended up with. And we incorporated that into the order and the findings materials that will be before you on the agenda meeting, or the consent agenda at the meeting this Thursday. We also included materials showing how the applicant is proposing or is currently attempting to meet those conditions. And so, Chair Smith, as you mentioned, there is a sign posted on the property. We can talk about whether you believe that's sufficient or not, but they've also advertised in the Oregonian and the Oregon City Regional newspaper and reached out to the historic preservation.
I think the sign posted on the property is adequate.
Okay.
I just probably should pull in the driveway and read it. Anybody interested in the property would probably do the same. Comments?
Yeah, I'm happy to put it on the agenda. This was on the same day that I was absent.
Yep.
I mistakenly put my calendar on March 9th when I had a medical, but I was actually the Mount Hood Rest Area meeting I was at
That's fine.
that day. So
That's fine.
yeah, just want to clarify.
Thank you, Paul.
You bet.
No objections to this moving forward?
Okay.
Seeing none. Thank you,
Nate.
Nate.
Chair, I have a suggestion. Would you like to put both of these previously approved land zone items as a board discussion item Thursday, and then therefore we don't have to worry about the consent issue, and then you could discuss who was there, who wasn't, and anything? Would that be
Yeah, I think
helpful?
that'll be easier
Okay.
for process.
Okay. So Nate, unless you object, we're going to do that for Thursday, just to make it cleaner for the board.
Do you want a similar presentation? Or?
Yes,
Okay.
if you don't mind, please.
Yes, will do.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Nate.
You bet.
All right, all of these items, Commissioners, on consent will go to this Thursday's business meeting agenda. Thank you. Back to the regular list. Next up, 2022 State Legislative Session Summary. We have Chris Lyons, Government Affairs Manager, Trent Wilson, Government Affairs Specialist, both from Public and Government Affairs, to outline the fantastic work they and their team did in Salem on your behalf. There's a packet in your memo in your packet.
Before you get started, I'm trying to pull up the memo in my packet, and I'm having troubles.
I have a printed version if you'd like to use that.
Yes, I would. How did you know? I don't know why I'm having trouble.
Would any other commissioner like either a printed copy, or can you see it online?
A problem with his webpage caused by the Internet Explorer to close and reopen the tab is the message I'm getting.
All right, we will correct that offline for you, Chair.
Close current tab. Go ahead, Gary.
Okay, go ahead, Chris and Trent.
Okay, so before you have a 25-page summary from the legislative session. We're going to summarize it here in 5 minutes. So it'll be very brief and hit on the high points. So I'll just begin by saying it was a short session. They ended up doing it in 32 days. There were almost 300 bills this year. They spent $2.2 billion. The Clackamas Caucus was once again super helpful to Clackamas County. This bicameral, bipartisan group of 15 members worked together throughout session again, and their primary focuses were on the courthouse and 205, so both of our top priorities. And I'm happy to report we were successful on both of them. So on the Clackamas Courthouse, you'll recall that our objective was $94.5 million in an expenditure limitation. And the reason for this was last session, the legislature had authorized that funding, but they required OJD and the county to return to them with a budget note report, answering a bunch of questions about our project and the P3 approach we were taking. And after that report was presented, they would consider the expenditure limitation. So that report was presented a couple weeks into session. It went just fine, and in the last few days of session, the expenditure limitation was included in the end of session budget bill. So hooray, that is done. The state's 50% share is in hand, and now we can move ahead as a county with next steps. And a big shout out to the Clackamas Caucus, who did an immense amount of work talking to all their colleagues to make sure that that was the end result. And on the 205 capital project and tolling, There was no legislative objective on this one this session because all the action was at the regional level. But the Clackamas Caucus, once again, was active in raising concerns. First, they sent a letter to the OTC to share their concerns. Not receiving a response from the OTC, they then elevated their concerns in a letter to the federal delegation asking for support. And very shortly thereafter, we saw some movement on that issue at the regional level and the conversations that were taking place.
So what was the movement?
There was some, I would say, some give on ODOT's part on some of the requests we were making around the RTP amendment.
Can you be specific, Chris?
We had put forward a number of requests through that process to ODOT, such as how the funds would be, I guess, the timing around when the tolling would be implemented between 205 and the regional level. And so that's an example where some of that timeline was shortened by ODOT to reflect some of our concerns. There was a list of requests that we had made to ODOT.
Yeah, so one thing that might be relevant, and I know the two of you are keen on this, the one, I believe, on the federal request and the state request was that the ask was that ODOT, would not, shall not, or advocate for not tolling Clackamas ahead of the rest of the region.
Correct.
And as I understand it, the RTIP, MTIP discussion, what ODOT has proposed for Thursday at JPACT has not changed in that regard. All they've done is moved up the approval, but not really the implementation. As I understand it, is that correct, that the implementation still will be about a year difference?
I'm not as in the weeds on that. I don't want to speak for some of our team who are working on that in more detail. I know that they did put in some more conditions that helped us feel better about where that is at, but I think, it's still in discussions.
Right, and as Commissioner Shull heard yesterday in our meeting with ODOT, they have still not met that condition, both that we asked for, that our state legislators asked for, and that the federal delegation asked for. So therefore, we'll talk about that a little bit later.
We'll talk about that later. Thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
And then the last two priorities that we had on our agenda, first was addressing the housing crisis and the homeless and improving housing stability. And the legislature passed a $200 million homelessness and housing package. And in your packet, there's a whole list of what how the funding broke out in that package. I'm just going to highlight a few of them. The first is $80 million for addressing immediate homelessness needs statewide. That funding will be distributed out to the Community Action Network, which we are a member of, so we will be a recipient of some of those dollars. Second, Project Turnkey was funded once again at $50 million. And they heard us loud and clear. They added flexibility in around the use of those dollars. The language now says that they can be used to convert motels and other existing structures to shelters and temporary housing.
And Chris, that's $50 million statewide.
Correct.
Thank you.
So that will be provided to the Oregon Community Foundation again. We've been in touch with them. They are going to do some kind of RFP process again. They anticipate that hitting the streets probably in early April.
Wow.
And they're mindful of the fact that the last time there was a very quick turnaround on those proposals. They're going to have a bigger window this time.
Okay.
And then the last one is $25 million statewide for grants to local governments for shelter capacity, hygiene needs, and outreach to people experiencing homelessness. And Clackamas County will be directly receiving $2 million of that, which
Wonderful.
Was based on population and the 2019 PIT count. And then our last priority was state indemnification of local governments. We did see some discussion on this issue, but no bills were introduced. We expect it to come back in the long session next year with some conversations in the interim. And now I'll turn it over to Trent to tick through a few other bills.
Chris, on this wonderful list we have you been able to calculate how much of this will go directly to Clackamas County on the housing package?
No, it's impossible to say beyond the $2 million that is direct. Everything else will be pass-throughs or grant.
Okay. Do we lobby again on any of these packages to increase our share?
Possibly, I think things like Project Turnkey, there could be some conversations that might be helpful.
Since we didn't have it last time, our time frame was too short. We were not able to identify a willing seller for what the amount offered, blah, blah, blah. I think those are good reasons to make the case.
I think on that one, for instance, we could certainly accompany an application with letters of support and things like that to show the community support for
and reasons why we weren't able to, and I don't know if we're going to be able to comply this time. I just don't know.
Yeah.
But at least the time is an important factor and increased funds on that.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Just add on the Project Turnkey, when they were developing the budget for how much money they wanted to allocate in that way, they were reaching out to different jurisdictions, including us, about how much money in general would be needed for each jurisdiction to move forward. So we shared the window of budgets that y'all have seen with available projects to kind of give them an idea that this is about how much money we would be looking at. So they were building a budget based on what was some expected need out there. So they're aware of kind of where our range is. Wouldn't be surprising to me if, even though it's not allocated, they're thinking in that direction that Clackamas County will be coming back.
Okay, great.
For Project Turnkey.
Great.
All right, well, I'm going to tick through a few bills that were not on the priority list, but also important to Clackamas County, which we were really close to. Number one is Senate Bill 1545. This is the Future Ready Oregon bill, or the Governor's Workforce Bill. Naturally, this is really important to our partners at Clackamas Workforce Partnership, as well as our Economic Development Department. It's also really important to our H3S department, who also provide workforce services to vulnerable individuals. And we noticed early on in this bill that the funding excluded local governments the ability to receive those funds. So we worked really fast and hard at the beginning to ensure that local governments were able to receive those funds, and we were successful working with the governor's office there. So a big win there. There were two veterans bills that came to session this year, and I just want to be very upfront that both of these bills were really good with their intent. They were trying to move forward meaningful policies. They were, respectfully though, underbaked in terms of their delivery. Would have provided some unfunded mandates on counties for delivering some of these services, as well as created some awkwardness with how county VSOs operate. And so those bills are going to come back. They're going to be worked in the interim and probably also at AOC. So you will see those bills again in the future. Again, everybody across the state felt like these were good, honorable bills to deliver meaningful services to our veterans here in Oregon. Just they needed a little bit more work, and everyone's willing to go and do that hard work to get it done next year. A couple of behavioral health bills that passed. One was for money for workforce, specifically for behavioral health providers, because there's a little bit of an exodus of providers who are leaving the behavioral health workforce. So $132 million will go into that industry to try to retain individuals, as well as to hire back new individuals to serve in that capacity. There's also $100 million to expand available housing and residential treatment beds for behavioral health, another huge need for that group. As y'all know too, Oregon, as well as all the other states, received a settlement from a big pharmaceutical lawsuit related to opioids. Over $400 million are expected to come to Oregon, and the state this year, through House Bill 4098, created a statute on how to distribute those settlement funds. This is going to create a committee. There is a seat specifically for the Tri-County area, so a commissioner from the Tri-County area has an option to go in there. So we have the option to go and maybe put a person on there if that's something that this board wants us to go work on.
We will send a representative from this commission, and we will come back and revisit it and decide who that is.
Great. We will be happy to help with that.
You bet.
Mm-hmm. And then for early childhood, there is $150 million for summer learning programs. So that's K through 8 enrichment grants, high school academic grants, and community activity grants. And again, that's something that our H3S team, our community, our children and families offices can go and help those school districts pursue and be successful with. So those were the bills that were just outside of our priority range that also affected the work that we do here at Clackamas County that we wanted to be close to and share with you all the results of. Before I finish, though, I do want to say none of this is possible. Chris and I are not successful without the help of all of our departments across the county. We work with every department director, many staff throughout the county, to look at these bills, over 270 bills that we tracked, and their attention to detail, their ability to give us their expertise, and then deliver that message to legislators is critical for our success. So yes, we get to be up here in the microphone, but we really are a huge team that makes this successful for Clackamas County.
Thank you. Chris's packet is very nice. Do the commissioners have any go ahead.
I have a question. House Bill 4095, Veterans Dental Health. You spoke about that a little bit. Is that a funded deal?
It was more about helping veterans receive access to dental health. And the challenge that was there was it was based on honorable discharges, and CVSOs, who are access providers, did not want to be, and because they don't do it now, determining who was eligible for those benefits based on something that was decided at a federal level. And so rather than change the role of a CVSO, it felt more important, yes, we need to get that access, but don't change the role of CVSO. Can you keep it or alter the bill in a way that allows our CVSOs to help them access those programs, but without making the determination of honorable discharge or not honorable discharge?
All right, good. Thank you.
Any other questions about the legislative agenda? It was a great report.
Great work.
Yeah, I look forward to you coming back and briefing us on the flow of money coming into Clackamas County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary?
Great, thank you. The next item, legislative request, Senate Bill 3126. I'm going to pull that. There's a little more staff work we need to do, and we'll bring it back to you in the next few weeks. Next, workforce conference sponsorship. Commissioners, there's a flyer in your packet. The Clackamas Workforce Partnership, on behalf of the statewide workforce network, is asking if Clackamas County would like to co-sponsor the state conference for workforce development. It is called 2022 Working Together. It's in this November at the River House in Bend. Our Clackamas Workforce Partnership is asking, would Clackamas County consider being a sponsor, which the range is between $2,000 up to $10,000. Again, there is a memo in your packet. I'm just seeking direction. Commissioners, would you like to support this conference or not?
No.
Okay.
Short answer is no.
Okay.
Commissioners, what do you want to do? I think we're going to have other requests coming forward of requests for funding like this.
Yes, you will, and you already are.
Okay, great.
I'm just trying to just trying to find, Gary, is there any value that, and I know that Martha's on top of workforce stuff, but I just kind of wonder if I'm kind of lacking some of the insight that's not in the materials here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just, what's our cutoff on participating with this?
As far as the deadline to report back,
Yeah.
The Clackamas Workforce was asking by the end of March, by the end of this month, they need a commitment or not from us.
Okay, this does not necessarily foreclose us from participating, though.
Oh, no, you can certainly attend as participants.
Right.
We would pay the registration fee.
Right.
If I may, Commissioners, I've shared this every time. You get a lot of requests for sponsorships, a lot. And in the past, you have kind of held a line saying no to everything. Certainly, I've shared with you, I have an amount of funding in the county administrator's office that is just waiting for you to make decisions like this, so I could use those funds. But yes, when you say yes to one, then many, many others come forward. And so you could, our staff's actually working on a protocol recommendation for you of when you would accept such requests and what the level of funding could be. That's still in process. But yes, you can attend this conference as a participant. We, of course, support workforce. You've already given $100,000 this year to Clackamas Workforce Partnership to assist with the implementation of the Construction to Careers Pathways Project. So you're demonstrating your support for workforce already.
And Chair, if I just briefly expand on my interest and I do my best to learn a little bit more about what opportunities there be. So for example, if there is some opportunities for potential employees in the future that would attend this, that would see our logo and our name, that might be something to help our void in our workforce, because we do have a lot of vacancies. Mm-hmm. If there is a tangible relationship that people might see our logo and know that we're involved, we could potentially be able to recruit people that we may not otherwise. So exposure may be worth it. There is significant cost to recruiting people, and even at the minimum sponsorship of $2,000, I think our staff know that it's quite expensive to recruit just one individual.
Gary, is our logo at this conference?
Currently, no, and it would not be unless you were to be a sponsor.
All right. And this is in Bend?
It's in Bend, yes.
Wow.
This November.
I'm not sure if anybody wanting a job at Clackamas County will travel to Bend for their job. We have quite an active recruitment. But if you want to bring it back later, Gary, for a full board, I don't know what you want to do. Is there support for?
Question, they wanted the donation by the end of the month?
Just a commitment by the end of this month. We could pay it a little bit later.
And where does this money come from?
I would come from general fund, that I have a amount budgeted within the county administrator's office. I call it the administrator's fund. It is just there in case the board wants to do these one-offs that are not part of the county budget already.
Okay.
So how about, let me ask Commissioner Schrader what she prefers, because this did come through her, and there's not support today to approve it, but I'll ask her if she wants to bring forward or just
Yeah,
let it
talk
slide.
with Commissioner
Okay.
Schrader.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you, Commissioners. Next, Advisory Board and Commission appointments. Shannon, would you please take this?
Yes, we just have one today. The Enhanced Law Enforcement Advisory Board is staffed by Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. They currently have 2 openings. They did a recruitment and 3 applications. Resumes were received and 2 are recommended to be appointed. One of the applicants is new and the other applicant is currently on the board. The recommendations are Brian Van Cleef and Mark Wells.
Chair, I move to approve.
Seconded.
I have a motion to approve 2 individuals for the Law Enforcement Enhancement Board. Did I say that right?
District.
Okay, district, excuse me. And by Commissioner Savas and seconded by Commissioner Scholl. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, motion passes 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Commissioners, your business meeting agenda for this Thursday, March 17, 2022, 10 a.m. here in person and on hybrid for those members of the public. You have currently one board discussion item, which is statement of support for the Eastern European community. You'll be talking about that just in a moment here at Issues. And then the consent agenda items you approved today, including the board discussion items on the previously approved land use items. That's the agenda so far. If you have any questions on any item, please let me know, and staff can answer it for you prior to Thursday. Next, statement of support for Eastern European communities. Commissioners, you asked for a statement last week to be reviewed at this Thursday's business meeting. Staff has put together a draft for you. If you'd like to use this time today, you can give us any edits or suggestions, but this Thursday is where you would formally approve the statement.
I think it should be read into the record, Gary. Would you like to do that?
Right now?
Yep.
Yes, happy to. The state of Oregon and Clackamas County specifically has one of the largest Eastern European populations in our country. As we witness the growing tensions and destruction in Ukraine, the Board of County Commissioners would like to acknowledge the deep impacts of our neighbors, residents, and community members with roots and ties to the Eastern European region in the world. We extend our heartfelt support for the people impacted by this conflict at home and abroad, especially those who are deeply worried about the safety, health, and welfare of their loved ones. The board stands with communities experiencing conflict, destruction, and hardship globally, nationally, and locally. We know that many world and national events occur on a regular basis in need of humanitarian support. As such, Clackamas County is contributing $7,500 to the Slavic Community Center of the Northwest, who is pulling together care packages and necessities for Ukrainian refugees. For more information, please visit www.sccofnw.org. That is the statement.
Commissioner Scholl.
That's a good statement. Thank you.
I want to thank Martine Koblenz for helping us craft a very good statement. And then the reason I wanted it read in for the record is anybody listening can understand the gravity of the situation. We will bring it forward this at this Thursday's business meeting.
Yes.
I recommend that somebody read the statement again.
Okay.
Either a commissioner can or Gary can.
Okay.
Commissioner Scholl, if you want to do that, or you?
I'd be happy to.
Okay, good. Thank you. Paul, any objection going forward?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, thank you. We'll do
Okay.
that again.
Very
Commissioner Scholl, you get ready to go.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Chair. Next, Vietnam War Memorial. Commissioner Shull would like to discuss if the county would like to contribute to this memorial. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning. The Oregon State Parks and Recreation Commission has approved the memorial site on the state capitol grounds. In Clackamas County, we have thousands of veterans who served during the Vietnam War. That war produced over 58,000 U.S. killed in action and over 150,000 wounded. And since that time, our veterans and their families, they look for closure and recognition for the sacrifice they made during that war. And I believe that our support of this memorial, and when it's built, will help bring some closure to our people and our veterans. And so I would like to encourage this board to make a donation to the Vietnam War Memorial in Salem. Now, some 11 counties have already made contributions. 2 counties contributed 10,000, about 5 contributed 5,000 each. And for your consideration this morning, I would recommend that we look at perhaps making a donation of $5,000 at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Shull, for bringing this forward. That project has been, I remember being down at the Capitol and being discussed for years and years and years. Commissioner, do you have any comments on this?
I move to approve $5,000 towards the Vietnam Memorial.
I'll second
it.
that.
Okay.
Since you made the presentation, I'll second that. Thank you for bringing that forward. Any further discussion? Commissioner Savas has made the motion to approve $5,000 for the State Vietnam War Memorial. Commissioner Smith has seconded that. Shannon, please call the roll.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Shull?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, motion passes 3-0. Thank you.
Excellent. We will make that so. Thank you. Next, COVID-19 Small Business Support Package Update. Sarah, would you please come forward? Commissioners, our Business and Community Services Department have put together a fantastic flyer outlining all of the work Clackamas County is doing to support small businesses who are impacted by COVID-19. Sarah Eckman, Interim Director of Business and Community Services. Your team put this together with the support of Public and Government Affairs. It's just such great news. Can you just give a quick highlight again to the board and those listening?
Certainly, thank you. Would be happy to. This flyer does represent a really large body of work that's been done since COVID started in March 2020. And as you can see from the wide variety of the topics here, it's taken a joint effort from many, many departments and stakeholders out in the community, and we have been so glad to be able to provide this level of support. The Business Recovery Centers were a partnership with 7 of our chambers of commerce in the county. They established 6 locations. Westland and Lake Oswego shared a Business Recovery Center, and then the others listed on the flyer had their own. Our BCS Economic Development team staffs the 4Biz phone and email. The Department of Transportation and Development did both the temporary business zoning modifications and development direct, really switching and pivoting quickly to put services available online. Health, Housing, and Human Services through Public Health worked closely, of course, with the EOC and did environmental health fee waivers. We did use some lottery dollars to do scholarships through Clackamas Community College, which enabled students who were nearing the end of their program to get over some hurdles that allowed them to graduate and go out into the workforce. We partnered with Micro Enterprise Services of Oregon and have distributed more than $8 million in grants. They've also been in the county now for 2 years providing technical assistance to small businesses, and they're really focused on those micro businesses who are mostly entrepreneurs. The Emergency Operations Center was a huge effort, and so just to give you kind of the highlights there, really departments all across the county contributed to this, and we were privileged and honored to be able to work with everybody to provide this support to the small business community, and it's still going on today.
I think this flyer is really a good presentation. I would like to see it prominently displayed on our website of what the county is doing. And I do mean prominently, not buried in 16 pages so somebody can find it, because it does represent a large body of work before I got here and after I got here for both boards. And we maneuvered through extremely difficult times. We were fortunate to receive monies from the state and federal government, not all that we really needed for this, but Thank you for that. Any other comments from commissioners?
Can I see it, please?
Certainly.
I just had a question, and that is, so MISO is going to be in charge of distributing the ARPA dollars that we currently have allocated, correct?
We have not selected an entity yet. We have a notice of funding opportunity out. It closes March 28th, and so we're accepting proposals from organizations. It could be, MISO could make a proposal if they decide to do so, and there may be other proposals as well.
Okay, and there's how much money there? 6 million?
There's there's 4 million designated for businesses, and we carved out 3 million for the purposes of grants specifically to go out to the businesses. And then the other $1 million will be designated for more programmatic service delivery to support the business community.
Okay. I just was hoping, well, the need's out there. I know if it's not easy to find someone to actually help with that, I know the chambers know that this is cost or, so much to administrate it that they don't feel that they're adequately prepared to do that or have the means to do that. So I'm just kind of wondering if the administrative cost is high, is there an estimate? I'd like to know. You don't have that now, so I don't want to put you on the spot, but get some idea of how much administrative cost there is for all the dollars out there. So will it be 20 cents on the dollar to get a dollar out on the street to help is what I'm looking for. So, but granted, no pun intended by using the word granted, getting these dollars out is important. So, and I just hope we can do it as swiftly as we can for those businesses that are struggling or in need. So.
Yes, we did put a requirement in there that whoever is selected would push grants out within 60 days of the date of the award to get to that end of trying to get this money out the door quickly.
So it sounds like they would need some expertise and able to get the money out within 60 days. Kind of sounds right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah, and we'll get this on the homepage of the county website in a prominent location. Thank you. Finally, Commissioner Communications, Chair Smith.
Yes, Commissioner Scholl, do you have anything?
Yes, good morning. Yesterday, the Association of Oregon Counties Legislative Committee met, and I'm happy to announce that some 20 bills supported by the AOC Legislative Committee actually passed in the short session. And this morning, our legislative liaison staff covered those bills that I had highlighted, so you know about those already. And there's one little thing here I wanted to pass on to you. Commissioner Yamamoto from Tillamook County reminded all the counties that their county was attacked last year by ransomware.
That's right.
And I just want to remind our staff that that continues to be a threat, and we need to be on top of that. And I think that's all I have for you this morning. I think Commissioner Sabas is going to talk about our meeting last night. Okay, good.
That you also attended.
Yes.
You may want to, you're saying you may want to opine further on that.
Well, I think Commissioner Savas will cover the ground.
Oh, you're up.
Well, thank you. So, yeah, we had a discussion last week with our staff, our DTD staff, regarding the upcoming JPAC meeting decision on the MTIP and RTIP meeting. I think that our staff were anticipating a recommendation maybe to support the RTIP, but perhaps not the MTIP. But what they were not prepared for was our discussion about the removal of any language or referencing to tolling all the lanes. Granted, that has been our message dating back to 2018 and the letter I think we sent in July of 2018. So, our message has been consistent. So, not in any disagreement. Staff pointed out to me yesterday in an earlier meeting all the places in which the documents where it has that, where we would request that change. And I sense, frankly, colleagues, that I don't think they will be successful in that effort of having that language removed. So that's number one. So I don't think, I'll do my best, but I don't think that language will be accepted to be changed in all those documents. I think there are.
Which language again, Paul, make it clear?
The language about referencing tolling all the lanes of all the interstates. I'm also hearing, in just full disclosure, and it's public, I think, a number of our elected officials around the region, there are some that support tolling all the lanes. So I think we have perhaps a potential disadvantage at that table. I don't know. I can't give you my, where people exactly land and why. But I think also referencing back to the discussion on the legislative report that our staff gave and referencing where our Clackamas Caucus legislators opined in a letter to the OTC, and also our federal delegation had sent a letter to the OTC delegation in regards to not tolling Clackamas County ahead of the rest of the region. And granted, there has been some concessions, or you want to call them that, adjustments. I want to thank ODOT. They have stepped up and met us, I think, halfway on some of the stuff. And I say us, being the region, not Clackamas County. So we have that, but as of explained today, and Commissioner Scholl was there in that meeting with ODOT staff yesterday and our DTD staff as well, they didn't quite make it to that one particular metric in that which we had asked for. Do not toll Clackamas County ahead of the rest of the region. That's not in the books. What they have is a clear timeline of an estimated 1 year difference, no different than it was before. The only movement that they did have in there was that they wouldn't toll Clackamas County before and it's just a technicality, but before it was actually approved to toll the entire region. That may give some people comfort, but I don't think it really gives us the comfort, because they still need to stand it up. They still need to build it. And there's a lot of geography. There's a lot of land and roadways and interstates. There's a lot to stand up, and I don't know that they can actually accomplish that in a year's time. So it could be, could be faster, but I would presume on the current climate that it could take much longer than a year to stand up after approval. Longer than 1 year to toll the rest of the region. So Clackamas County residents and people passing through Clackamas County could be paying that toll far longer than 1 year, that's my concern. And it doesn't meet our requirements, or the federal or the state. So therefore, I'm inclined to vote no. I will do it as diplomatically as possible if you're in support of that. But I just want to give you my latest update and my inclination. Chair, you did say repeatedly that you would give both Commissioner Scholl and I the flexibility needed. I think we could do that without any head nods today, but I think it would be important knowing that staff from around the region and ODOT are listening to our meetings last week, and they'll be listening to this one today. I'm sure they're listening right now. So I think it's important to at least make a statement here.
Well, we had quite the discussion last week where this board voted in favor of you both going forward in this. And when I meant flexibility, I did not mean to totally change what the vote should be. It sounds like you want to change and not support what this board voted on last week. Am I hearing that right?
Well, I think
because I'm confused.
I think that, again, well, I won't repeat because that'll take a long time. But what I'm trying to say is that what the premise in which we heard, and the vote was 3-2 to support, is really not completely there. So what I'm saying is that the criteria we asked for isn't there. Come to find out that what you thought might be there isn't there. So, I think it really begs the question of a revisit, because that metric wasn't met, and the metric what we had, the region had, the state had, and our federal delegation had, has not been met. So you want to proceed. It's not as though that we are changing our vote. I think the premise in which we voted is not the premise today.
Okay, we have two commissioners missing today. Commissioner Schrader voted in favor of going forward. Commissioner Fisher either abstained or voted no. I don't remember which.
I believe she voted no.
She voted no.
Okay, so that's no and a yes. Okay. I have something I want to say. Gary, go ahead.
All right, so I wrote down what you all approved. It was to vote yes on the TPAC amendment, vote yes on the MTIP amendment, and make three amendments, make three changes. Strike tolling all lanes, don't toll I-205 first, finish the NEPA first. So a suggestion is that Commissioner Savas and Commissioner Shull attempt to make those three changes at the table, and if they're rejected, then they could vote no, because with those conditions not being met, then they would vote no. But that puts the pressure on you then, Commissioners. You do have to make those changes at the table.
Today.
Well, no, when you go,
No, on Thursday.
at Thursday's meeting of JPAC and MPAC, you will verbally make an amendment to the proposed language to add those changes. If it fails, then you could vote no. I think that still meets the intent of what the board directed last week.
I do too. I think that's okay. I do think these two commissioners need the flexibility because it's changing. We meet 1 week and then we don't visit it again until 8 days later. There's a lot of time in between. You know, an additional argument, you go back to our first town hall that we had on tolling, and we had the manager of Clackamas Town Center call up. And his statement was, if you toll I-205 before the rest of the region, basically he's going to roll up the sidewalks at Town Center because there will be no business there. Because they will go to Washington Square, Bridgeport Village, and even the company stores in Woodburn. People will not go to Town Center. And then I started thinking, wow, if Town Center is that way, what about all the other businesses that are located off I-205? And I would like one of you too, if you could also make that economic statement regarding that. I think it's very important. You know, it's just not about, you know, our disdain for unfairly targeting Clackamas County. It has real economic repercussions that will reverberate the entire region. So I think that's important to make too. Paul, I think your request is fine, Commissioner Shull. If that's what you want to do what you can on Thursday. If you think that this is what you need to do. This whole thing is going to change. Every time we think we, you know, narrow in on something, it changes again. So we'll be back visiting this, like I said last week, we'll be back visiting it again and again.
Okay. Just to make it perfectly clear, Gary, could you just restate those three items you just stated?
Yes, so the request that you will attempt to amend the TPAC and MTIP amendments, and that is strike tolling all lanes of I-205. Don't toll I-205 first. Finish the NEPA work first.
I think NEPA needs to be finished. That is one thing that I want to be. I don't want to appear that we're slowing down all the process. You know, and allowing the NEPA to be finished. Well, you know, we're saying, okay, fine. We're not objecting to everything. Okay, so I do think it's important that NEPA be finished and the funding stream that goes with it. There's $28 million for that.
Okay, Chair, just so that, because again, I was alerted yesterday, Commissioner Shull heard the same thing. We know that ODOT staff are listening. I want to make sure that the region clearly knows where we are. So I would make a motion that I will take our position Thursday morning at JPAC will be that if the language is not stricken of tolling all the lanes of 205, if the language is not stricken or there's not comparable language to address that they don't toll I-205 first under the current scenario, and also that there's not direction to move forward with a NEPA, that we will vote no.
So there's three conditions that need to be met. And what are the possible repercussions of this vote?
I don't know what the rest of the region will vote. I don't know how they'll vote. So if they vote for it, then everything there will probably occur. The NEPA will move forward. That's one. That will happen probably. They will toll I-205 first, and they'll toll all the lanes.
Okay. All ready?
Is there a second?
Seconded.
There's been a motion on the table to amend the prior, what do we want to call that? How do I, Gary, read the motion.
Yeah, so you are amending the board's action of March 9th, 2022.
All right, good enough. Commissioner Savas has made that motion and Commissioner Shull has seconded. Any further discussion?
Well, Chair, I'd like to say that Commissioner Savas yourself and I are here to represent the people of this county. They have spoken about these issues. Our cities have spoken about this issue. I've got a document here from Clark County agreeing with us about the 75,000 people that come here every day to work from Clark County. And we have not seen a response from ODOT that has been sensitive to the will of the people. And I fear that if Commissioner Savas is not successful on Thursday, if I'm not successful at MPAC on 30 March, that we're going to have this giant headbutting, and it's not going to end well. So my hope is that this Thursday, the representatives from ODOT will be listening very closely to what we have to say.
Thank you very much.
My little commentary is that, and thank you for bringing up Washington and Vancouver. We have employees here that work here at Clackamas County.
We do.
That live in Vancouver or in Clark County, in Washington. And they will experience a burden.
Oh, absolutely.
And that will be one more disincentive to stay employed here at Clackamas County. And it's not just Clackamas County as an employer, it's a number of employers. So this could have some severe economic impacts to a lot of employers in this region. I don't think people realize that, but there are consequences.
That's a good economic impact. And what I mentioned earlier about the town center and all those related businesses that are retail and commercial, I think that's a second really good economic impact that you can use in your toolbox.
Yep.
Okay, hearing no further discussion. Shannon, please call the poll.
Commissioner Schull,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 3-0. Thank you very much. Next up.
You're still on Commissioner Communications.
Oh, that would be me. I don't have anything right now. I know that's rare.
You are done for the day then.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Commissioners.